Kentucky with our Wednesday night live stream. Try to do this every Wednesday and Saturday, 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here in Louisville, Kentucky. Got my Beatles Crosley player from the other day in the mail today. I didn't wait half the night to get it. I paid $100 more than retail. I'm glad to have it. They're selling 100 a day on eBay, anywhere from $350 to $450. This is the 4 separate singles that you could buy also. They only made 1,500 each supposedly nationwide. That's hard to believe, but they're going for quite a bit too. They were only $16, $17 in the store, and they're going for about $40 a piece already. I sold my 4 for $130. They go out in the mail tomorrow. Any questions on the Beatles Crosley player? I'm not gonna open it up. It's got a little tab where it's sealed right there.
Wolfie Baby says, hey Frank.
Hi Wolfie Baby. Good to have you here. We won't talk politics on this live stream, Wolfie. You can save that for Rachel's Ghost. I like the box. That's what made me buy this Crosley. We really celebrate the Beatles on Ed Sullivan. Great photo there from the first show, February 9th, 1964. That's from the same show with a different set. They did 3 songs, the first set, and this was a set for the last 3 songs. That was a set for the first 3 songs. Nice presentation. If you want to see that opened up, Beatle Brad opens it up and details it a lot on a couple videos.
Wolfie Baby says, hoping to have a video about the stuff I bought from you out by tomorrow.
Sounds great, Wolfie. I'll check it out. Got these Go magazines in from 1966, MCA, what was the WMCA, a radio station in New York. They promoted the Beatles heavily in 1966. They had a big press conference, and that this issue advertises Revolver. It just come out right after the Yesterday and Today album. And this Go magazine advertises on the bottom the Beatle phones by Koss. And this is my $5,000 box of Koss Beatle phones. I got like 45 watchers on that item on eBay. Probably the nicest condition that exists in the world. I'll briefly open it up and show you it there in the plastic wrap. Fragile. Not going to open up any more than that. And then also in that Go magazine, they had a lot of exclusive photos of the Beatles on Shea Stadium 1966 when there was some empty seats. Wasn't quite like 1965. You got a picture of the Ronettes that opened up for them, and the circle is down here. So that's my Go magazines. You got Donovan on the cover of that one. And you got the 4 Seasons on the cover of that one. The Beatles are on the cover of this one. I got like 10 magazines from Go. The Beatles were only on the cover of this one. They sold for 5 cents in 1966. You did have to pay for them.
Don't forget to like if you like the content, please.
Yeah, on our first part of our Pill and our Butcher cover, when we're steam peel it, we've got like over 3,000 views and like 75 likes. But on the second part, it's at 1,100 views and it's only 47 likes. And if we get 3 more likes in that video, it should go viral, the second part, where I finish the stereo butcher cover. So 3 more likes, what I need on the second part. If any of you can help me out. All right, got a lot of new arrivals. Let me talk about a few things. Let It Be, coming out on Disney Plus May 8th. It's on my Laserdisc. I sold the Let It Be box set that I showed in the last live stream. It sold the next day for $700. It was in really nice shape. This is a German pressing of Let It Be. I got a lot of German pressings today because I really go after them because they're mostly all audiophile. They had the right cutting equipment in the late 70s to make the best Beatle pressings in the world. They asked for the master tapes from Abbey Road Studios and then they did their magic. It's the late 1970s with a 72 prefix of Let It Be. But the movie coming out, I'm excited about it because it has the complete promos of A Long and Winding Road, Let It Be, and Two of Us. And the Two of Us video was one of the last times where Paul and John were harmonizing and singing Eye to Eye. That never happened again after that. But there's also some other parts of the movie that's not in the Get Back documentary. Different angles, like when Paul and George are arguing, and I Me Mine, and when they're creating Octopus's Garden, George helping Ringo. It's a different camera angle. So I'm looking excited to see with Peter Jackson. I'm sure he really cleaned it up, and the sound I'm sure is going to be amazing. Also, there's a coda at the very end of the Let It Be movie of Get Back that's nowhere else, where Paul's doing a little like at the end, very end of the movie. It'll be exciting to see if they really clean that up because it's the only place that you can get that outtake at the very end of Get Back. All right, that's a Let It Be. In June 14th, we have One Hand Clapping coming out from Paul McCartney and Wings. 1974, right after when Band on the Run was a huge success, #1 album. So I bought the One Hand Clapping on the Paul McCartney website. I got the 2 vinyl set with the 7-inch bonus EP. It's the only place that you can get it with the bonus EP. And you had a limit. You could buy up to 4 of them, but I just bought 2 of them. But I put the extra shipping of UPS overnight because it'll go straight to Louisville because we're the main hub of UPS, and I'll get it the day of release. So the only disappointment I have with the One Hand Clapping, it doesn't have Suicide on it, but I understand that's not politically correct to have that song anymore, but that was a song that Paul McCartney wrote for Frank Sinatra, but he didn't want to record. Frank didn't want to record the song Suicide, but I do like Paul singing that in the One Hand Clapping. All right, get into some of these new releases. Let's see. Few of my ideas have popped into my head today when I was at work. Magical Mystery Tour, Horror Zoo. Somebody tried to tell me that the DMM cut from the early 80s in Germany is not a true stereo with a A1, B1, plus C matrix, and I told him I listened to it. I've listened to 100 true stereo Magical Mystery Tour. I know when I'm listening to the real deal, and this is the real deal. It was made from direct metal mastering with copper, and it is in true stereo. And then he kind of said, oh, well, you know more about it than I do. I'm one of the first people, I think, in the United States that discovered the amazing sound of the Horseshoe, because I bought a big Beatles collection in 1980, and I discovered how that Horseshoe with the true stereo sounded so much better than any other Beatles pressing. And I'd have people that were Beatle freaks would come over to my house. I had my Thorns TD320 turntable down in the basement, and they would listen to Penny Lane and Baby You're a Rich Man, the side 2, and they couldn't believe the sound on that Magical Mystery Tour Horseshoe. But we discovered that in the early 80s. I discovered it before I had ever read about it or anything, Goldmine magazine or anywhere. What else I write down? Ringo's little thing he had at Omega Records the other day in LA a few days ago. If you watch the 6-minute video, I do this too, so I'm not making fun of him, but when he came out to get on stage, he kind of just glanced and bumped right into the wall and just kind of bounced off the wall, and he just played it off like nothing happened. But that's something we do when we get older. We need to respect our elders. I mean, Ringo's 12 years older than me. We need to respect the legend that Ringo and Paul is, and as long as they're here. And one other thought I had today, if you could get Paul McCartney, Mick Jagger, and Jimmy Page in one interview in one room, in a real good interview, I think it would be amazing, while they're all three still alive. I think that would be the ultimate rock interview if anybody could ever pull that off, to get all three of them together. All right. And my only thought today was that Sgt. Pepper, some people are kind of playing that down now, like it's losing its status as a great album. And I played it. My sticker granddaughter's not here today. She couldn't make it. She's a little tired, but I've been playing her Sgt. Pepper, and she's just amazed at the songs on it and the Paul and John harmonies, how they can blend their voice into one voice. She just can't believe it when she hears some of the songs. And then the other little thought I had today was how the Hey Jude and Stairway to Heaven, when they were both being recorded, George Martin would tell Paul McCartney, you can't put out a song 7 minutes long, it'll never fly on AM radio. And Paul says, watch me. And Paul was right. And then on Stairway to Heaven, they were telling Jimmy Page, you can't have a song that changes momentum as the song goes on. And he says, yeah, I can. And he proved everybody wrong with Stairway to Heaven, the way it just starts off slow and then turns into a locomotive. All right, let's get into some new releases. New arrivals. Got this in today. Got any questions? Bring them up as I show this stuff. This is the Withdrawn.
Woofy Baby said, laugh out loud, hold my beer.
What is it?
Laugh out loud, hold my beer.
Oh,
Woofy Baby said that.
the interview?
Huh?
The loud was when they had, Play It Loud was the interview they had between The Edge and Jack White and Jimmy Page. But I think it would be even greater if you had McCartney and Mick Jagger and Jimmy Page. So I don't know what it was called, Play It Loud. This is the Withdrawn 1982 10th anniversary of Concert for Bangladesh on 2 LPs instead of 3 LPs. They only had about 200 or 300 of these made it into stores before it was withdrawn. And you can see it has a little saw cut there on the top. This is still in the shrink. And it has it's not in a box set, it's just in a gatefold cover, but this is in the shrink, so you can't see the middle of the gatefold. And it's got a different back. But that's pretty rare item. The Concert for Bangladesh, a 2 LP set instead of a 3 LP set. For contractual reasons, they couldn't release it, so they were supposed to destroy them all. But 200 to 300 copies got out in the stores. All right, Licorice record. You saw this in my short the other day. 1963 from the United Kingdom. You even have the original hard aged licorice inside, if you can imagine that. John Lennon. Paul McCartney. It's got a little paper insert. Paul McCartney of the Beatles with the hard licorice behind it. Licorice is 61 years old. That's some old licorice candy. Ringo Starr. These originally sold for 10 cents out of a display case in 1963 in the United Kingdom. And George Harrison. And you got the group shot. No problem with that. This licorice candy got cracked during shipment. The other ones didn't. There's a lot of Beatles memorabilia I bought the other day. You got the 64 yellow with the Beatles on the balloon in the package. There was a warehouse find of these, and Jeff Osberger got a hold of a whole case of them in Chicago area. The Beatles hairbrush made by Genco. This is the real deal with the Beatles on the embossed on the hairbrush. Nice little photo from them from 1963 on the back. This was made by Hong Kong to put on bakery cakes in the United States in 1964. Little mini cake toppers. Got John Lennon on the header card on that one. I guess they probably, all four of them are on different header cards. Wings Over America. I think this came in Monday. Had this before the program. The reason I went after this one because this was held at the LA Forum. That's the ticket stub for the LA Forum in 1976 when Ringo kind of made up to Paul McCartney. He was waiting backstage. And also backstage was Charlie Rich, Eric Clapton, and Elton John. So it's a big deal. Wings Over America towards the end of their big tour playing in LA. Ticket stub, I don't know if it has a price on it. $7.50 to see Paul McCartney at his absolute performing peak. He was amazing on that whole tour. I saw him at the Chicago Stadium earlier in that tour. Got this in today. Probably the nicest condition, authentic, introducing the Beatles I've ever owned. It's perfectly preserved in the factory shrink. It's a version 2 with Please Please Me on it. Nice seams, 4 square corners. Just you don't find them like that. With no rub of that usual rub wear down there at where Paul's shoulder is. Amazing condition. Condition. Side 1, side 2 with the bracket label. Somebody asked me on one of my short videos today, why do I wear gloves? I don't want to get my body oils on these expensive, over 50-year-old records. He says, well, that makes sense. My BC 13 1978. You saw the ones that I had sealed. I sold it last week for $1,700. This is one that's not sealed. But just all the records are sealed inside it. There's a Harry T. Moss cut of the White Album from 1978. Somebody tried to disagree with me that these aren't English UK pressings, and they are. Capitol Records just imported them to put them in the first 3,000 box sets, but these are all United Kingdom pressings. Got the gold sticker on the front, limited edition, and the gold sticker on the back that shows all the albums that were inside it. And it's got the unique poster that I've shown, put out by Capitol. There's Capitol right down there, Capitol Records, BC 13. You can only get them in the first 3,000 box sets. And there was a little problem, I think it was on Rachel's Ghost, where they were arguing, or George Borden, that they weren't numbered after the first 3,000, but they were numbered in the 80s in the United Kingdom. They'd put a little gold plaque on the side. They'd be from 3,000 to 5,000, but that didn't mean you had a 78. You could have all the way up to a 1986 pressing that was numbered on the side. It's in a darker or lighter blue box than these first ones are in a real dark blue box. All right, let's put that away. Almost sold my Flip Your Wig game yesterday. The guy was ready to buy it for $199, and then he backed out saying that the color wasn't bright yellow, and I had to explain to him these were never factory sealed in 1964. I said, good luck on finding one in better shape. They all have a little bit of wear. The only thing that was sealed, they just put a price tag at the end of it, like $1.29. You can see where the price tag was on the end of that. The only thing that was sealed was the game piece section. And this one still has the shrink wrap when it was sealed from 1964. But the actual board game, the box was not sealed. Just had a price tag, store price tag at the end. HMV Sgt. Pepper. Gotta talk about Sgt. Pepper. I'm a believer in Sgt. Pepper. How else did I have two Nimbus Supercuts that were worth $7,000 a piece? There's got to be some magic in the Sgt. Pepper album. This is the 1987 HMV compact disc box set. I sold a sealed one of these for $144. This one's been opened, but the audiophile CD is still sealed inside the box. It's got a special button. It was 20 years ago today, HMV. It's got the cutout sheet, and it's got a real nice booklet that has outtakes of the album cover when they were putting it together. That's Peter Blake there. The Beatles looking on as they're starting to create it. And all the outtakes, there's his wife Jan Hansworth helping put it together. And on this photo you can see the Elvis bust that's clear over on the right that was taken out at the last second.
Safe and Sound said, is that Arnie Zanzibar in the background?
Arnie Zanzibar? What on this booklet?
I'm not sure that's what they just asked.
Oh, you mean my posters? Maybe that's what he's talking about. You have to ask David what he's asking. I'm not sure. David from Safe and Sound. Nice to have you here. I know you have the Mobile Fidelity box set of the UQHR. I guess there's 4 letters. And you think it's really good. I've had it a few times in my life. I was afraid to play the Nimbus Supercut. PB Thel wanted me to send him a RIP recording of it, but I sold it. I had one that was sealed and one that was open, but I never played it. The man that sold it to me for $6,300, he had such seller's remorse that he ended up giving me $500 through PayPal plus a full refund, and I sent it back to him. He said he should have never sold it. And then the other one, I sold the sealed one that I got from Chad Cassim. I sold for $7,000. So I just got these in today. These are the 4. If you're talking about one hand clapping from 1974, these are the 4 Beatle posters that were drawings that were created in 1974 to promote the Beatles in record stores. Got Ringo from young to old, and John Lennon, George Harrison with his sunglasses, and Paul way over here on the right. All right, where do we go next? Say butchers for a second. Got these in today. You want to talk about a fragile import items. These are it. First press. You're never ever gonna see that Abbey Road cover look like that, except for the first press from England, 1969. It sold for £2, 50 pence. Got their they never sealed these in England in '69. This is the way you bought it in the store. But look at that laminated cover and the detail. So much better than the U.S. copies. And the pressing, such an audiophile pressing, -2, -1, that has a dark green Apple label and no Her Majesty on the B side, or on the second side. Just shows the N. And I haven't had this in a while. This is a military export from the United Kingdom of Hey Jude from the mid-1970s. That's also a flimsy laminated cover. It's really sharp, the detail. And it's got the original price tag at $250 on it also. So he was in the military and bought this at wherever he was stationed at. It was exported from United Kingdom.
Mr. Charles Ray says, Frank, I can't believe you're a 70s brother. You look 35. What's keeping you young? Is it the Beatles? Laugh out loud.
It's the Beatles a little bit, but it's also, I was a long distance runner for 50 years of my life. That helped. All right, on this.
Safe and Sound said Frank is a young whippersnapper.
Yeah, I think David's almost as old as I am. All right, on this label on Hey Jude, you got the error mistake. On track 3, it says paperback writer in 3 different words. The only time they made that mistake was on this pressing of Hey Jude. Haven't played it yet, just got it in today. It's in excellent, hardly played condition. At work at the grocery store today. It's got the original patent number, inner sleeve like they put in the Let It Be first issues in the box set. I'd say those are pretty nice, pretty nice. I got another Led Zeppelin seal, the complete BBC sessions in yesterday. And I have a sealed box set of How the West Was Won coming in a couple days. I'll have it for Saturday. Led Zeppelin at its live peak is on that box set. But this is pretty nice. This is the 5 LP set. It's got the additional 1 LP that's got some different tracks on it. The complete BBC sessions. Got a couple mono UK in the last couple days. Beggar's Banquet and Let It Bleed. Somebody told me on Beggar's Banquet there's only one true mono mix. Symphony for the Devil, and the rest of them are fold down. It's a laminated cover. That strange photo of the Rolling Stones throwing pies at each other. Brian Jones, Wasted there on the right. But this is the first pressing of it that has written by Mick Jagger and Keith Richards. On the second issues, they had to remove that because they had to give writing credits on Prodigal Son to, don't know who, but somebody out there might know the answer on that one. The mono albums in England got the red FFRR full frequency range recording. And I also got a mono pressing of Let It Bleed from 1969 in the United Kingdom. How you know you got these first issues has a little hole in the back of the cover so that when you put in the sleeve, if it was pink, you knew you were getting a mono, and if it was blue, you were getting a stereo. Hard to put that in a sleeve in there.
Safe and Sound said, can you find me a David Bryan 12-inch?
David Bryan 12-inch. No, I don't know about that. You're talking about the Talking Heads guy? No, is that David? Alright, you see, that's how you knew you had a mono copy of Let It Bleed. Because you could see the pink. If it was blue, you knew you had a stereo copy.
Then Daniel Castillo said, Michael Fremma said, Beggar's Banquet and Let It Bleed are fold downs.
Yeah, except for Symphony for the Devil. So you got side 1, side 2 from Decca. That's who they recorded for in England, or with London Records in the United States. This is the original Let It Bleed poster that came from, in the US, it copied the London. Yes, you're right, Daniel Costella.
So Mr. Charles Ray says, how many albums do you have in your collection? How many albums do you own to list in future? What's the most unique and exciting item you have to look forward to list soon?
Well, I already listed it. My Holy Grail is already listed. The turquoise Led Zeppelin. $4,000. The last one I sold was in almost the same shape. I sold for $3,300. It's not always about the music. Sometimes it's about the collectability. You're talking about the very first album that was released in England for a couple days before the band hated those colors, and they changed the colors really quick. So only very first issue of Led Zeppelin 1 had this turquoise. Got the original A1, B1 pressing on the record. And I should have my glove on this one, because this is the Holy Grail.
And Charles Ray, pretty much every album he has is listed on eBay.
Or will be. I'm an official reseller. I don't get too emotionally attached to these. Hopefully I'll get another one, but I'll probably never get another turquoise Led Zeppelin.
Daniel Castillo said the woos on Sympathy for the Devil sound louder in stereo.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Who did the woos? I know some of them.
And Safe and Sound.
Which females did the woos in Sympathy for the Devil besides the band? Let's see if you know the answer to that one.
Safe and Sound said that's the one Jason Roark bought to make friends.
Yeah, he has one of those. There's one other person on the VC community that has one of these. Who is it? He's in Phoenix, Arizona. I gave you a big hint. And he's the one that wanted to buy Nimbus Supercut, but I got it from Chad because I knew how to peel butcher covers. He wanted, Mike from the in-group wondered how I got a hold of it. All right, let's put these away.
Mr. Charles Ray, you just fire along and we try to do the best.
Was he impressed with that one?
Well, no, like him and Safe and Sound, because he said, Mr. Charles Ray, please wait your turn on one. And then Mr. Charles Ray said, how do I know when it's my turn?
This is the one I played at the audio show the other day here in Louisville, Audio Fest. Led Zeppelin 2, the Monarch pressing. MO on the bottom of the record. RLSS on both sides. The ultimate way to hear Led Zeppelin 2. We cranked it on a $100,000 system, and people stopped in their tracks, pulled out their phones, and started aiming it at the speakers. That is definitely an audiophile pressing. They'll never be able to recreate that. They don't have the equipment to ever make that cutting again. Once in a lifetime freak accident. Led Zeppelin 2. That's why the price of it keeps going up. Alright, put these Led Zeppelin Holy Grails away. Any other questions about those? And you can't talk about Led Zeppelin if you don't talk about Led Zeppelin 4. The Porky Pecco Duck Led Zeppelin 4 with the hype sticker for Stairway to Heaven on the front and the title hype sticker on the back. Another audiophile pressing from Led Zeppelin. Porky Pecco Duck. That was for George Peckham. So you got Robert Ludwig, George Peckham, and who was the other top 5 mastering cutting engineer from Australia that's in the top 5 of all time? He did the Nimbus Supercut. No, he did the Audio 5 pressing of Sgt. Pepper. What's his name? Who's gonna get it?
Deborah Eagley says Ryan Ludwig also mastered Tattoo You.
Tattoo You. I saw my seal Tattoo You.
Don Bartley's who.
Don Bartley.
Said,
That's the
Deborah.
answer. Don Bartley. He's in the top 5 mastering engineers of all time.
But the Tattoo You was talking about.
Tattoo You went out to Kimbo in the mail earlier today. He bought it for $122. Sealed Tattoo You with a hype sticker for, what was it? Start Me Up and Waiting on a Friend.
Daniel wants to know, do you think the First State Butcher will be sold this year?
I think so. But if not, it will sell next year. I'm in no hurry. It's not going down in value anytime soon. Butcher covers. Butcher covers. I brought my third states today. I didn't bring my first state. I'm not touching it anymore unless somebody got the money to buy it. I sold 2 second states now in the last 2 weeks. Now I'm starting to realize also the value of a second state that's never been peeled. This isn't a second state, this is a fourth state. But I sold a second state, East Coast, in excellent condition with real white colors for $1,888. And then 2 days ago, I sold a West Coast number 6 with a tough glue in beautiful shape. I sold it for $1,777. So there is a market for real nice second state butcher covers.
Daniel wants to know, does the first state have an insurance policy?
Insurance policy. I got it locked up in a bank vault. That's all I can say. So these are my peeled butcher covers, third state. This is the one I did 3 nights ago. Excellent condition, East Coast was the number 3 on the back, Scranton, Pennsylvania. And this is the West Coast, LA. And this was actually a cutout, so it was sold for $1 or so, were no returns. And somebody didn't even know the butcher cover was underneath it when they bought it for $1 in 1967. Notice the tints are a little different. You got a purple tint on the East Coast, and you got a more natural tint on the West Coast.
Mr. Charles Ray said, Frank, will you treat yourself any when you sell that butcher cover?
Yeah, probably go to Ruth's Chris or something, steakhouse here in Louisville. Treat myself a little bit. So the tonight on eBay, they had a Jacksonville number 4 on the back, and I could see, and you could see the V-neck faintly, but there was some wear on the cover, so it could be all in your mind. But I saw that the slick was pasted on a little crooked on the lines. And you could tell it was one of those that they just hastily pasted on real quick. So I bought it for $576. So I'm taking a chance, because if it really is a second state butcher cover, I'll have one of the few in the world. There's only been 3 first state butcher covers that came from Jacksonville. Perry Cox owned 2 of them. But a few of them got snuck out of the factory. And so I believe that a couple of them snuck out and got pasted over, but we'll see when I get it.
Saving Sound said, can you peel my Virgin Killer?
Peel is what?
Virgin Killer? What the heck's that?
Virgin Killer. That sounds like a Scorpions album. I don't know. What's the answer to that, David?
Yeah, he said first he said that one, but then he changed it to that.
The vault is fireproof, yes. All right, is that any other questions on butcher covers? I wrote down some things on the butcher covers. My notes. So I told you about some of these things that are coming in the future on my purchase history. I have the butcher cover number 3 East Coast coming tomorrow that I'm going to peel. I told you about the Jacksonville number 4. I'm hoping it's a second state. I have a German pressing of the Beatles. D-I-E, Beatles, the best pressing of Please Please Me coming. I got another Horzu Magical Mystery Tour coming. I think I have 2 more coming. I told you about How the West Was Won. I got the Led Zeppelin 4 LP box set sealed coming. I got a sealed In Through the Outdoor late 70s of Led Zeppelin. It's still in the original paper bag. And I told you that's mostly the things coming in the next few days. And then what I sold on eBay the last week, I sold a Sgt. Pepper first press stereo from the United Kingdom, 1967. It went out today, $150. The promo I had a From Me to You, well, there's only 250 in the world of the Beatles. Parlophone promo with A on the white label, on A on the A side. It went out a couple days ago, sold for $1,700. Told you about the Let It Be box set, that was real nice, sold for $700. My Beatles lunchbox and thermos went out today in the mail, sold for $900. And my real nice Beatles Paul McCartney Soaky I had with no paint loss except for a little bit on the fingers, went out for $144. And my sealed Horzu, it was on the Apple label of Magical Mystery Tour from Germany that I bought from Perry Cox, went out yesterday. It sold for $300. And I told you about my BC-13 sealed from 78 that went out and sold for $1,700.
Daniel wants to know, do you have any Parlophone label White Album or Abbey Road export?
I do not have, I've had a White Album export before, but I sold it. But this is an export album, this Hey Jude. It was only made to be exported to the military bases in the mid-1970s.
And then this Planet Vinyl, I don't know, what do you see all that last one?
250 means that AR is post-1971, as that is the year. Gotcha. So, are you saying the Hey Jude's from 73 or 74? If it's got a 250 on it? You might be right. All right, I told you about the ultimate interview. Paul McCartney, Mick Jagger, and Jimmy Page. Get them in one room. Let Mazzy interview them. It'd be amazing. My favorite music albums were from 1963, which is the Beatles. I Saw Her Standing There. I Want to Hold Your Hand. Louie Louie from the Kingsmen. All the way up till 1973, that's my decade, 63 to 73, and then with Ziggy Stardust from Bowie and Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon, and the great Ringo album, almost the big reunion of the 4 Beatles. And I had a Jesse's Girl picture sleeve, but I didn't bring it in here today, from Rick Springfield. And he made so much money off of that song that he bought John Lennon's Butcher cover prototype in an auction for $220,000. And he says he'll never sell it. That's his ultimate collector's item, his John Lennon's personal prototype. It's only a front cover. On the back, he made a hand drawing of the Butcher cover. And Rick Springfield owns it now. Rick Springfield was on the Beatles channel once, and they were interviewing him, and all they wanted to talk about was Jesse's Girl and Rick seeing the Beatles at Sydney, Australia, when he was a young teenager in 1964. Rick kept trying to say he had some other hit songs, and the Beatles channels wouldn't give him a chance. They only wanted to know about his big thing and him seeing the Beatles. All right, and then one other thing about the Sgt. Pepper, I might have said this before, but they took a long time to record Sgt. Pepper, and the Monkees had become the big hit. They had the first 3 albums were #1, and at one time they had 1 and 2 on the charts. And they thought, well, the Beatles must be over with, and the Monkees took over. But Sgt. Pepper came out, and it was never the same again. The Beatles were #1, and a few weeks later, the Monkees TV series was canceled. So I think the Beatles might have had something to do with that. That was most of my notes. Oasis gets trashed on Rachel's Ghost channel and some other ones. Rachel likes Oasis, but there's a lot of people that don't. But I think Don't Look Back in Anger ranks up there with the Beatles classics. I think it's a great song. It's just amazing. It must be Noel Gallagher's tribute to John Lennon. Don't Look Back in Anger. The Polygram, Andrew from Polygram, had a nice video this Sunday. He's coming back. He still has a Squarespace, this is what you call it, his advertisement, but he had a whole thing on Can't Buy Me Love, and it had a thing in the middle of the video where it said the Dave Clark 5 was #1 on the charts in England with Glad All Over. And Can't Buy Me Love came out, and that was pretty much the end for Dave Clark 5 being on top of the charts. There were 2 million advance orders for Can't Buy Me Love. In the United States, the demand was so high, they only made a few one issue on the East Coast of the picture sleeves, and then they decided, well, they don't really need to release this single in a picture sleeve. It's already sold a couple million, so that's why that Can't Buy Me Love picture sleeve's worth close to $2,000 now, because they just didn't make very many of them. Abbey Road on the River's coming up May 23rd to May 27th, right across the river here in Louisville. I'll be there Saturday, May 25th. So if you're going to Abbey Road and the river, I may run into you then. One other thing about Record Store Day, they had the Stones live at the Racket Club coming. I didn't buy it. But my little beef about that Stones album, I heard that video on YouTube, and I thought a lot of it was AI. The Stones, no way could they perform that good live. I think a lot of it was fake. But that's my little beef on it. But I didn't buy live at the Racket Club. And those are most of my notes that I thought about today. What other things I have to show? What are we at on time?
Pretty much 53 minutes.
5 more minutes. You got any more questions? Want to see my Crosley Beetles player one more time? For those that turned in late. Selling like hotcakes on eBay. $350 to $450, about every 5 minutes one of these sells. Crosley the Beetles, little mini turntable. Last year they had the Doors come out. This year was the Beatles. What's it going to be next year? They're going to have Elvis or something? Those are little 3-inch singles. I'm sure they don't sound too good, but you know, with this little carrying case that they have, it fits about 7 of them. So they're going to be releasing another 4 of these for next Record Store Day. So you had this first issue had Tiller Was You, She Loves You, I Saw Her Standing There, and I Want to Hold Your Hand. 4 songs that were all played on the first February 9th performance of the Beatles on Ed Sullivan. Each one of these, if you open them up, has a little mini poster inside it. Beatle Brad shows all the posters.
Safe and Sound said the 3-inch, not worth it.
Not worth it. Do you know in Japan, David, the 3-inch is a huge fad. People are buying 3-inch records in Japan like crazy. I know, it seems strange to me too. So this last time, this is that weird picture sleeve from France of the Rolling Stones, Angie and Silvertrain. Don't think you could have got away with that picture sleeve in America. And then the first EP, got this on consignment from Kevin from Kevin Records here in Louisville. Not Fade Away, Rolling Stones EP, the first EP issued in April of 1964 in France. And notice the title, it's got Stones instead of Stone with a D. So that was a mistake. Only happened on the first issues. And I sold my Lady Madonna picture sleeve I had that was near mint the other day for $159. This is my near mint picture sleeve of I Want to Hold of Long and Winding Road. The last Beatles picture sleeve issued in America, 1970, with the Phil Spector strings and wall of sound added on. But it just added magic to the song, I think.
Daniel wants to know, do first date beggar banquets exist?
First date beggar banquets do not exist in a stock copy unless they made some prototypes of it. Well, that would be the only way. With the toilet bowl cover, I think that's what he's talking about. All right, did I show everything? I showed that the last one. I just got this in today.
To show you Red Stones in already?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe I didn't.
I didn't think you did, but maybe.
I got this in today, 1999 sealed yellow Submarine soundtrack from England. One of the best remixed Beatles album that exists. Mazzy thinks this is the best. Better than what Giles Martin does. And then the Dirty Work from 1986, the Rolling Stones, sealed in the red shrink. So it looks so much different, doesn't it, with sealed in that red shrink. You can see the cover's like a maroon or something blue underneath it, but it really looks different with that red shrink. And I showed House of the Holy last time. Got another Sgt. Pepper, first press from England. Look at that laminated cover. Still cracks when you open it up. It's got the flaps on top. And it's got the, it says stereo there on top. If it was mono, it would say mono there on top in real small print. And it's got the first issue from England of the Beatles masterpiece album. It says sold in UK, subject to resale, price conditions, see price list. That's how you know you got a 1967 pressing. And one time I had a 1968 pressing that didn't have a day in the life listed on the B-side, even though it was on the pressing. It wasn't listed on the label because the BBC banned the song. Because Paul's little comment went upstairs and had a smoke. I guess that's why they got banned. All right, I think that is about an hour.
Yeah, about midnight.
Thanks for joining us, and we're going to have a lot more to show on Saturday night because I got a lot coming in the next 2 days. Thanks for all you guys checking in, and if you've got a few gals too, I think I have 95% men watch my videos and about 5% women. See you from Louisville next time.